Hey lovers! Welcome back to Learning As We Go podcast. Here is a very safe space for absolutely anyone to come, indulge in, and feel validated in. We're a community, we're a family, and yeah, so welcome back. Today is a very interesting episode. I am going to be talking about something that's a little bit lighter. I actually had something that was a little bit more intense planned for today, but I want to take a little bit more of a lighter approach, which is totally okay. Anything is valid, plans change. So also a reminder, plans can change, and that is completely okay and valid. Today, we're going to be talking about, as the title says, being happy or being more content, feeling more fulfilled in your alone time, in a time where you might not have someone attached to you all the time. And this can be, if you are currently single or you're just away from people for the first time. It can align for many different experiences and situations. For me, it personally aligned for a bit, and especially a while ago. I went through a little bit of a phase of constantly needing someone around me or wanting to be in a partnership of some sort. I was so obsessed with the idea of having a partner and not being alone anymore, and I almost saw it as a way of social status almost. I saw it in a way of I will be more filled. I'll finally feel put together and I have my life together if I finally have a partner. And I almost attached all of my personality and character to it. And it was, honestly, it got to the point where I don't even know if I talked about anything else for an extended amount of time compared to how much I was talking about romanticism and romantic things, romantic aspects, how much I wanted that, how that life was going. And now I'm very happy to say, and if you are in a relationship and you're super, super happy, that is amazing. That's the point, right? Relationships are supposed to fulfill us. We are, encouraged to actively learn, actively grow, become better people. And if the person you're with encourages you to do that, makes you feel seen, that is phenomenal. That is amazing. But also, there are ways to feel like that if you don't have that person in your life. I personally have been learning this, and as someone that once was, really attached to the idea of pairing up, being quote-unquote wifed up with someone, to now really enjoying my alone time. I love my alone time now. I love being alone. I love reading, and I love doing all these things, and I love my actual company. And what I'd like to actually distinguish here is there is a clear difference between not liking your own company and not liking yourself. And not liking yourself is a little, not even just a little, it's much more intense. And that can, it has aspects of insecurity and society, and a lot of media plays a lot of a role in that, but that's a completely different idea. Not liking your own company is different from that because you don't like the time that it takes for you to wind down at night, or for your nervous system to kind of get off of, a very active maybe day that you've had. Maybe you didn't have a very active day, but whatever day you've had, and then just come back to yourself. And I personally am extroverted, and I'm an INFJ, so that's an extroverted introvert apparently. But I personally, like many people, need people in my life. I really value relationships and friendships, and I really value that connection. But at the same time, I have learned to really come back to myself at the end of the day. So this applies to you, or this can apply to you, take what resonates, if you are an extrovert, or you're an introvert, or you're a little bit of both, or whatever your kind of energy feels more rejuvenated in. This can apply to anybody. And yeah, take this however you like, but this is personally just what has worked for me. So where I kind of was in a position where I was surrounded by primarily, surprise, surprise, a man. That really was in the mindset of, I really want to have a woman with me. I really want a relationship, that kind of thing. And, there's a saying that we tend to become more like the people we hang out with. And I started to pick up on that trait. I was like, oh, okay. maybe I need to also have a partner. Maybe I need to be with someone in order to feel more like myself, like I'm actually becoming an adult, or like I'm actually becoming more like myself. Maybe that's something I need to do. And this is often, it's different for men and women and other gender identities. It's different for everybody, but primarily for women, we tend to put a lot of energy into our partners. We tend to transmit a lot of energy from ourselves into the bettering of our partner, while our partner tends to be like, oh, this person is putting so much energy into me, therefore I love them. And that's usually how that works. It is kind of unfortunate. Sometimes it's not, which is if it's not and it's like equal, that's actually phenomenal. That is amazing. It's a sign of a healthy relationship. But oftentimes, women tend to put a lot of energy into, if they have a male partner, a lot of energy into their husband or their boyfriend or partner in that sense. And it's generally not reciprocated. And that's usually why a lot of men feel the need to have a girlfriend, to have that partner. And it's just also a statistic. The most happiest people are actually married men and single women because women tend to push a lot of their own energy that they've, collected and savored and regained into a partner that they really love and want to succeed, because women are lovely individuals. And that's why sometimes, you really have to see if what you're doing or what you're looking for is actually going to be aligned with what you want. I went through a phase where I really didn't know what I want. I was going off of what I thought that I should want, what I thought I should be doing, or what would make me feel like I was doing the right thing, or like I was on the right track to becoming more of an adult and settling down and da-da-da-da. But it's funny that I'm saying settling down, because I'm actually a person that doesn't really want to, settle. I constantly want to grow and learn and immerse myself in different situations and cultures and opportunities, and I constantly want to grow and build. And I'm not actually someone that's looking to settle anytime soon. So I don't even, know why I was looking for that. But, we all have those experiences and we're always learning. But it's really about identifying, number one, what it is that you want. What are you looking for, or what will help you towards your goals? And if that is not a partner, that's okay. If it is, that's also awesome, right? We're all different people. We all have different things that make us feel empowered. There's different things that make us feel more like ourselves, more content, more fulfilled. And it's about sitting with yourself and figuring it out, right? It's about sitting with yourself at the end of the day or the start of the day or whenever you have some time, and really analyzing what makes you happy, what makes you feel excited to wake up that day, what makes you feel content and fulfilled and joyful, because that's usually what we always want. We want to feel that happiness. We want to feel that joy and that, that sense of excitement to wake up for the day and conquer that. So what is that drives you? And that's why it's so important to come back to ourselves at the end of the day and really figure that out. And there's no timeline. There's not, I need to do this by this time and this by this time. People are always accomplishing great things at any age, young or old or in between. People are phenomenal. People can be the best and worst things. And yeah, it can really be either or. But that's why it's so important to come back to yourself at the end of the day. Journaling, that's a really great method. Reading, from winding down through that, reading what you're interested in. Personally, I have been on my nonfiction kind of grind for around a year now, but I actually came across this article that went over the benefits of the benefits of fiction, and how going back to that storytelling mode and that mode of hearing tales and hearing stories, and how that induces our creativity and encourages our curiosity, can really nurture our inner child, can really attend to that inner child within us. And that's a super important point. It's so important to take care of our inner selves and our creative side. Often this is our right brain, or right side of our brain, that is all about colors and happiness. And this again varies for different people, but I never really thought about it that way. I was under this impression that reading nonfiction and things that are real and things that will actually, are scientifically backed, which is often true in most cases, but, things that are ultimately what was going through my head was things that are gonna get me to a place where I want to be rather than reading a bunch of fairy tales. But that's also super important to foster. If that is something that you genuinely enjoy, but feel shame for because it's childish or something that not a lot of people your age do, maybe it's something that a demographic that's older or younger or a demographic you don't necessarily usually fit in based on a stereotype, that is often something that's promoted by society that I really encourage that you don't fall into. If it is not hurting anyone else, and if it's not hurting yourself, why not do the things that make you happy? Why not go and do that thing that makes you feel fulfilled, makes you feel content? And when we talk about your alone time, people associate it with, I did mention myself, more popular things are journaling and meditating, but it can be so many different things. I personally have really loved listening to podcasts. Usually it's Emma Chamberlain's podcast, and coloring. I have really liked coloring, and I actually will get coloring books that are made for kids that are really, really simple, because I don't really like the intricate designs in adult coloring books, and that is usually what a child would do. It's made for children, but I don't care, right? It's a harmless activity. It is not hurting anyone else. It's actually helping me. It's calming me down. I do it before I go to sleep. Usually what I'll do is I'll put on a podcast, color, and then I'll actually read for a little bit, and then I'll go to bed. And I find it really helps me wind down. I also use stickers. That's usually like an elementary school kid thing. And I'll decorate my coloring page. And those little things that foster that curiosity and that sense of art and creativity in us that are completely harmless is something that is so encouraged to do. And, why not, right? Why not? I think so much of our usually teen lives, and honestly a little bit into our 20s, it can follow through. Timelines are, never set and steady for everybody. They vary vastly, but to have that thought that I can't do this anymore because I'm too old is so restrictive and so unfortunate that exists. And I'll tell you another example of when I would think this. I used to be a singer. I also was a dancer. I went to an art school. And I started at a very, very young age. And that was when it was most encouraged, just so that you had the most amount of time to kind of develop, or that was kind of the saying then, is you want to start young so that by a certain age you have this knowledge and you can pursue it further and da-da-da-da. But something I actually really wanted to take part in was ice skating. I really, really loved figure skating. I did do it eventually a little bit, but I wasn't very into it just because I had joined quote-unquote late. I took my first class when I was around 13, and that was the only ever session that I did. I had 8 classes, but it was that only one season that I was a part of. And I don't even know if I still can balance. It's been a little bit, but I have been repeatedly, over the last, I think, week or two, I've been coming across ballerinas that started in their 20s, 30s. The specific content creator that I saw was actually 25, and that's when she started. And usually, in an art form for dance, you start when you're 3-4 years old, but she started at 25, and that is completely okay, but seeing that was so rewarding for me and so validating, because who cares when you start? If you really feel warm and you feel like yourself, and it's something that your soul feels content in and something that you really enjoy, why not do it? We have one life, but we are often falling into the boxes of what society tells us we should be doing, and that's completely ridiculous. Honestly, it's aspects of the patriarchy that it falls under, and that's something we don't really want to attend to. That's not something we want to fall under, and if there is something you want to do it. Now back to the alone time thing. Now what if, I want to do this certain thing, but I don't know anyone else that would want to do it with me. I don't know anyone else that would enjoy it, and I'd feel like I was dragging them along, and I don't want to do it by myself. I'm a little scared. What do I do? Now that's very valid. I personally, I'll answer this with a experience of my own. I love museums, and I am someone that will stare at a dinosaur fossil for ages and ages and ages. I will stare over a bridge and look at all the water running. And the one day that I actually really realized that people, as a kid, obviously this happened when I was a kid, but the day that I really realized that people have different admirations, and even if you do like something as, that's a similar interest to someone else, the amounts you like that thing can vary vastly. So I was looking over a bridge as a kid, and I was just admiring the way this river was flowing. I am a person that loves nature. I love the environment. I love wilderness. And I was just looking at the sways of the trees and the birds that were flying around and the butterflies. It was summertime then, so it was very vibrant. And my friend's mom walked across that bridge because we were actually on the way to school. And so my friend's mom was bringing my friend to school. And me and my sister were just looking over this bridge. And my friend's mom was like, "What are you guys looking at?" And then she looked over and she was like, "What are you guys looking at?" And to me, to child me, I was like, "What do you mean?" What do you mean? What am I looking at? And that's when it really hit me that, okay, like people have different, admirations. And even if two people like something, maybe you don't like it to the same extent. And maybe that results in having an interest in something that is maybe not very common, or you just don't really know anyone that has that common interest as you, and you want to indulge in it more, but you don't want to do things alone. And this is so valid, and I hear you, but what I'm about to suggest is gonna be something you don't really maybe want to hear, but I suggest that you go do it anyway. Do it alone, and you're going to have a good time, I promise. It's important to do things that you want to do, even if you're doing it by yourself. Because, again, it's one aspect of nurturing your inner child, but also you may meet people that have that similar interest because you're in a space that you feel like you're thriving in. You have that environment where you have aspects of things you actually love and are interested in. And if you meet people there, likely they're going to have similar interests because you're in a space that is built on that similar interest. And an example of this is I went to the Royal Ontario Museum a little bit ago, and I personally don't really know anyone that, or I do, but they're in another country right now. But I didn't know anyone at the time that I went that would enjoy that experience as much as I would, and that I wouldn't feel bad for dragging along. Also, I'm a person that, again, stares at something for so long, and I'll read every single thing in the section that I'm interested in, and I'll be there for a really, really long time. And I would feel bad for staring too long or reading too long, and I wouldn't want to have someone else that was, maybe interested in it, but not so much that they want to read every single thing, which is so valid also. But I am someone that really wants to take in as much as I can and learn as much as I can about the history, cultures of the past, organisms of the past, every single aspect. I'm a very curious person, so I have multiple interests in this. And if you don't have a person that you would have a good time, maybe you would have a good time with that person, but maybe just the environment isn't a perfect setting for the both of you. Maybe it's just better for one or the other. But if you want to go somewhere and you don't really know anyone that would be willing and actually have a good time where you wouldn't feel bad for dragging along, go by yourself. Go by yourself. And it's so looked down upon, right? It's for some odd reason, it's looked down upon to do things by yourself, to engage in your interests and your things that you are just curious about by yourself. And it's a thing that I think is very prevalent for women, especially. Why are you doing it? Is it because no one likes you? And this can be very exhausting to think about. So, in an act of rebellion, almost, I encourage you all, just go for it. Why not, right? Why not do the thing you want to do? Do the thing you want to do, because we live once. Live it with love and live it how you want. If you're not hurting anyone else or hurting yourself, you're allowed to do anything that makes you happy. You're allowed to do anything that makes you happy if you're not hurting anyone else or yourself. And I really want that to sink in, because that's really the only restriction. That's the only restriction, but we feel as if there are all of these set of rules that we see on social media and, like how we should be acting. And obviously, it's important to act in a way of respect. It's important to respect whatever your environment you're in. Maybe it's a cultural difference. Maybe you're in a society where different things are expected, and knowing that is important. But as long as you're being respectful, again, as long as you're not hurting anyone or yourself, why not do the thing you want to do, right? Maybe it's a monetary restriction, maybe it's a geographic restriction, maybe you want to go to a different country. I personally want to go to Brazil, but I'm a student currently. And in that case, I would recommend, looking into what you would have to do for that to be a reality. What would you have to do to ensure that you can do this thing that you really want to do, right? And oftentimes it's much more simple than we think. We tend to, in our brains, and our brains are kind of, programmed in this way because we're constantly scanning for danger and scanning for the worst possible scenario, and that's what keeps us safe. And that's cool. But usually, things are not as complex as they seem in our minds. They are not as challenging, they are not as intricate as they seem in our minds. And often when you actually try to look into the thing that you want to do, or actually try the thing that you wanted to do, obviously you might not be good at it right away. But I promise you it's not going to be as complex as you might think. Also, if you want to just try something new, right? Do it! And I'm going to leave you with that today. Also, side note, I actually didn't have any podcast notes for the entire episode. I have just been going off of things I've been thinking about and what's been going on in my mind. Usually I actually prepare entire pages of notes for a podcast that I want to do, but today it's just what's on my mind, so feel free to let me know if you liked this style. Also, if you'd like to connect with me further, I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can follow me at radiant.ca on Instagram. Also, this podcast is available on YouTube, Learning As We Go podcast. And I will see you at the next episode. Thanks all, thanks lovers, and have a lovely day. And if you haven't heard it today, you are valid, you are capable, and you are worthy of the things that you admire and the things that you want to do. Have a lovely rest of the day, lovers.